What's up, people? I'm Shaggy, the opinionated hippie, and this is part two of my ranking Phish's studio albums. This will be the top 10. Just out of the sake for not making ridiculously long videos, I did part two, which was 16 through 11. I'm not going to talk about how I got into Phish or the connection. We're going to jump right into the top 10 albums, just so this is as short as possible. If you want to know more about Phish or my experience following Phish on tour and selling grilled cheese and sodas and all that stuff, or you want to know why the album's not in this top 10 I put as 16 through 11, watch part one. But we're going to jump right into number 10, studio albums only, 16 of them, not doing the White Album or things that were sort of unofficially released and then later became part of canon, or the Headphones album or Party Time or anything weird like that. Just the studio albums. All right. Yeah, I said I was going to jump right into it. Let's jump right into it. Number 10 is 2014's Fuego. This was their 13th studio album. Yeah, really solid, good album. Yeah, fantastic. Opens up with Fuego, the title track, a really nice, long, all over the place in the best way possible, kind of funky, proggy thing with all kinds of different parts. Two really good guitar solo, bass sections, just really good energy. A really short 9 minutes, if you ask me, but a great way to open the album. Two more mainstream pop rock numbers in the line in Devotion to a Dream. Devotion to a Dream having a really good guitar solo to close out. The line having some good melodies throughout the song, but kind of more middle of the road pop rock Phish fare, which I'm not complaining about. I think they have matured incredibly in their pop sensibilities over the years. And I like that. I like the studio albums because of that. But then the fourth song, Paige McConnell's Halfway to the Moon, is just an awesome piano-driven, proggy, mid-tempo rock energy that's just phenomenal. First four songs, great flow, peaking, I think, with Halfway to the Moon. Winter Queen, a ballad that doesn't do much for me. Sing Monica, an upbeat Sing Monica, kind of sing-along type thing that doesn't do anything for me. Then we get Mike Gordon's 555, which is a really good song, kind of nice. Reminds me, they have a lot of Little Feat energy, I think, in their last decade or so, because they're adding horns and this kind of funk R&B element. 555 has a nice, not quite as good as Spanish Moon, but kind of a Spanish Moon type vibe throughout it. Little Feat song. Waiting All Night is the one I think that has, I'm not a big fan of it for the first minute 40. It's kind of a slower song, kind of a ballad. But at the minute 40 mark, this melody line comes in, this vocal line that is just epic. I think it just is so nice. It gives it this really melancholy, reflective vibe. After that, it kind of goes into an instrumental section that continues with that vibe. So it takes a while to get there, but once it gets there, Waiting All Night, it's a great, a really good slow number. Wombat, this silly little funk number that maybe shouldn't work, but ends up working, even though it's trying hard to be annoying. It's actually a really good number. And then the closing Wingsuit has some really good energy, kind of a nice, slow, dramatic ballad to close things out. But yeah, what did I write on that? Oh yeah, has a really nice Wingsuit, has a nice War on Drugs vibe. Their slower songs, which seem to have a lot of just mellow, chill energy floating around the main lyrics and melody line. And for some reason, this kind of reminds me of War on Drugs, some of their slower stuff. But yeah, this is a really solid album. I mean, there are some songs that maybe are just kind of okay, but there's definitely not anything bad. A couple really good highlights. The opening track is fantastic, and an opening track will hook me into an album anytime. But yeah, really good album. My number 10, Fuego. Number 9 is Farmhouse, which came out in 2000 and is their 9th studio album. Definitely more of a straightforward pop vibe, especially the first half of the album, maybe the first 2/3 of the album, and then we get kind of weird and proggy towards the end. Kind of a nice evolution of energy throughout the song, throughout the album, I mean. Opens up with Farmhouse, which just might be one of their most straightforward, simple sort of pop numbers, but it works. I like it. It's catchy. Welcome, this here's a farmhouse. I mean, it's just a nice, straightforward little pop number. Twist has some good energy. Bug, beautiful little ballad, has this awesome little guitar part, this doo 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 that keeps repeating. I think I said Fast Enough for You might be their second best ballad. This might be a little bit better than Fast Enough for You. Both have great guitar lines, but this is another slow song that really, really works, though it does kind of pick up in sort of the choruses. Back on the Train, good train energy, good fun, upbeat live number. Heavy Things, another great pop song. Got a Jiboo, a little silly of a song, but it kind of works. Dirt, slower acoustic ballad that kind of works. Nice little tray number. This is when we get weird. We get Piper, which is this song that just builds and builds and builds and builds and builds and then doesn't really erupt as much as maybe it just like diffuses into like something a little gentler and fades out. Then we get Sleep. We get the In La Josie Wales, a couple shorter, weirder little songs. Then we drop with a great 1-2 punch to close the album. Sand, which live could really go on for like 3 or 4 times longer than this 3.5 minutes, but has this really good, simple, almost techno energy, almost kind of electronic energy to it, really good. And then the fantastic instrumental first tube to close with like a really nice guitar lead that gets repeated, and then we go into a solo, and it's just one of those typical kind of Phish instrumental with a really nice guitar line that kind of is the thing that motivates the song or that drives the song. But yeah, like a really, really solid, I don't want to say safe because I don't know. I mean, I guess they're playing it safe, but they're playing it well. Just some good pop energy, some good songwriting. I think the production is really nice. It sounds good. The sequencing works. I like the going from more to the simple Farmhouse to what was without a doubt the most sort of fishy first tube at the end. The progression is really nice. The only thing that kind of doesn't work is Piper. This is a weird number that maybe almost doesn't fit anywhere on an album, or at least not on this one, but a really solid album. My number 9, Farmhouse. Number 8 for me, their 6th album, Billy Breathe. This came out in 1996. I have seen this as number 1 on people's list. I understand why people like it. It has a great flow to it. Has 3 of their best songs, especially their mid-90s best songs. My issue with it is there are 2 songs in particular I don't like. One of them is the second track, Character Zero, which at the time sort of reminded me of Julius, like the song off Hoist, starting off with like the same like dun 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 dun, dun, like just a guitar riff energy, right? And then you kind of build into a bigger momentum, and then you end with like a guitar solo at the end, like your typical like good live rock number. It just felt too similar to that, and I never liked the lyrics about, oh, the man okay, he don't know who he is, don't know the story. I don't know why. The song just has never got me. And then the closing Prince Caspian, oh, to be Prince Caspian, is not something I've ever wanted to be, though I did read those books in junior high or maybe late elementary. Not one of the best books, I don't think. But anyways, those 2 songs bother me. And it's the second song and it's the closing song, and, you know, primacy and immediacy, people. But it does have 3 fantastic songs. Free, one of their best little spacey, proggy, guitar-driven rockers with some really good funk energy through it. And man, could they stretch that thing out live. Theme from the Bottom, a real kind of like murky, underwater, spacey type jam that has some really kind of really good bass playing. And the jam in the middle wasn't really solos, but like a building of an energy. Amazing. What my birthday show in 95, the second set was Theme from the Bottom into Tweezer Reprise. And there was a My Generation jam in the middle of Tweezer. One of the best sets I've ever seen. But man, what a great Theme from the Bottom. And Billy Breathes, which I think is by far their best ballad. The music, the lyrics, Trey's vocal performance, just an absolutely epic ballad. Other than that, not many bad songs. Like, I don't like Character Zero, so that immediately ruins the flow of the album. Kind of, for me, Character Zero is the Can't Afford No Shoes on Zappa's One Size Fits All, an album that I know I should rank better, but one song just irks me enough that I rank it lower because of that. So I blame Character Zero for that. Waste is kind of good. Taste, again, maybe could lift the album higher if I like those songs better. They're good. I just don't think they're great. Cars, Trucks, and Buses, an awesome instrumental meters type song. Talk is pretty good. Theme from the Bottom, Train song. Really nice acoustic little Mike Gordon number. Fantastic sort of train back porch kind of ditty. Bliss is a nice little instrumental. Billy Breathes is epic. You have the two weird Swept Away Steep songs and then Prince Caspian. So a good flow for the most part. I understand why people like this album, but I got two issues with it. So that means falls to number 8, Billy Breathes. Number 7 is the Siket Disc. This came out in 1999. And this album is comprised of instrumental studio jams recorded during the recording of The Story of the Ghost. And I love this album. There's not a song on here I don't like. There are no lyrics I don't like, no vocal melodies I don't like. It's nothing but sort of low simmering cow funk inspired Phish jams. They missed I think an epic opportunity to take maybe 6 or 7 of the best songs on Story of the Ghost and make an album kind of like Wormwood or The Conch from Mo, in which you have these like more segues from like songs into instrumental passages into songs. You can even have a couple of these instrumental passages as standalone like songs like Wormwood is to Mo. I think they missed an opportunity on that because like you can hear in a song like Ghost on Story of the Ghost that it's coming out of something that sounds like a jam. Let's have the jam. Then give us the song. I think it would have been a better album. This album, not a problem with. Love the opening My Left Toe, kind of builds up to a nice, like, really slow jam that builds up to like a point. You're like, okay, that went somewhere. The Name is slick, maybe a little just low tempo jam as the second song. But the third song is this 11 plus minute What's the Use, which has kind of a single melodic guitar idea that gets repeated the entire time, but it's just the way they ride that idea, kind of simmer it down a little bit, maybe bring it up, and it's 11 minutes of blissful jamming. I think they easily could have taken a good 5-minute chunk and dropped it on The Story of the Ghost, and it would have just worked perfectly like Wormwood works on that Mo album, that title track. You get some weird stuff like Phish bass, quadraphonic toppling. The Happy Whip and Dung song is another longer sort of jam, 5.5 minutes. Kind of reminds me a little bit of Frank Zappa's Trudging Across the Tundra. Those kind of like deep jams that the Wazoo tours would do. That's kind of the energy on some of this stuff. Insects is a really nice sort of percussive, like kind of like, what did I call it? Very like creepy, simmering, percussive energy to it that sounds like Insects. Title track, and then the closing Albert, kind of a nice, delicate, almost guitar, like picking ballady type thing. Really good flow. It's pretty short. It's like 36 minutes, 35 minutes long. It's just great. It's a great late night album. It's a great Sunday album. It's a great, just want to chill for a while and listen to something that's enjoyable but not too intrusive. Absolutely fantastic album, man. Just completely underrated. No songs, no vocals. So if that's what you're looking for, no guitar solos. It's all just jams. Phish doing their jam thing. I think it's amazing. My number 7, the Siket Disc. Number 6 is their 11th studio album, 2004's Undermind. I saw this on the end of a lot of people's list. I don't understand why this doesn't get more love. I really like this album. My understanding was it maybe wasn't the most pleasant recording experiences for the band, but I don't know. I think it sounds fantastic. It's got a little bit of everything. It's got one epic jam. It's got some Joe Walsh energy on it. Got some really good pop songs. Yeah, I don't know. It's a really good album. The intro is kind of a slow, like Sense and Subtle Sounds intro, kind of connecting a little bit to the song that would come later, but definitely not the Joe Walsh hard rock energy that would bring. Undermind, nice little funky little type pop song. The Connection, a straight up pop song, kind of like a crowded house thing from like the 80s. A song I heard the Ocean sing. Excellent jam in this. And the background vocals, I think Gordon singing "Run Away, Run Away, Run Away," or somebody singing "Run Away, Run Away," and it sounds like the melody is like "What a man, what a man, what a man." So some nice little R&B throwback reference there. Really like that. It's not What a Man, but it sounds just like What a Man. Army of One, a nice Page piano-led ballad that kind of reminds me of... Page reminds me of Ben Folds. I don't know a lot of Ben Folds 5 songs. I only know that one that had 10 Angry Dwarves, the one that had Brick. I know some of those songs. But he reminds me of that. Just a really good voice, solid control of the pop songs, that sort of a certain earnestness about him that sometimes works. Army of One really works, a really good song. Crowd Control, some good up-tempo pop energy. Maggie's Revenge, which is this weird instrumental that sounds like there's farm animals screaming in the background. I've always thought maybe Maggie was Maggie of Maggie's Farm, and this is her revenge, where she's tearing apart the machinery or wrecking the tractors or something. Like she's just had enough, getting rid of the farm. Nothing and Two Versions of Me are okay, really good musically, but I think lyrically I kind of aren't my favorite, but they're pretty strong. Access Me is kind of the only song that irks me. It's one of those quirky Mike Gordon songs. Sense and Subtle Sounds, great Joe Walsh 70s number. Starts off with hard guitar, and then as a lot of those deep cuts did on Joe Walsh's 70s albums, sort of devolves into like some weird progginess, then eventually gets really, really kind of simple and sparse before it rebuilds up into like an epic, like closing energy climax. Then we get a couple shorter songs, Tomorrow Song, a short song, and then Secret Smile, which reminds me, it's like a delicate ballad that reminds me of Barry Manilow, only it's not as like a Weekend in New Hampshire or Even Now or one of those kind of Barry Manilow songs. I don't mean that as an insult. I like me some Barry Manilow ballads. But it reminds me of that, just without as strong of a melodic hook, or not as quite as that sort of genius pop, easy listening craftsman that Barry Manilow is. It's just lacking that fine tuning, but a pretty good ending. And then Grind closes it out. But anyway, short little silly number. But yeah, man, a really, really solid album. And I think the first half, like the first 7 songs, the flow is fantastic. You got an epic jam and a song I Heard the Ocean Sing. I don't understand why more people don't like this album. I think it's fantastic. A lot of different flavors. I think they all work. And I think a lot of the songs in the second half people may like more than me, which makes it even a better album. Yeah, really good. Number 6, Undermind. Number 5 is their most recent album, released under the name Sci-Fi Soldier, Get More Down. This was the musical costume they did in 2021. Then they released it as a studio album, the songs, in 2022, a year later. Kind of like they did earlier, where they did a musical costume of what was like a Scandinavian prog rock band, but they released the live album version of that, which is why that's not on the list. This is the studio album version, so I included it. This is a fun album. It's like an early Ween tape, not musically as much as just the vibe and the spirit and the all over the placeness, with like a Devo energy. It's really fun. It's almost like, it's very kind of whimsical, but not in your typical silly Phish way, but it's fun. It's got one song, the Thanksgiving, that sounds exactly like Ween's Tastes Good on the Bun. Like that's the kind of energy this has. It's got some good funky numbers. It's got some playfulness. At one point they reference the fact that this is Sci-Fi Soldier and this is our album. Yeah, bunch of like 2 kind of long songs. Not really. One long song, Clear Your Mind. What did I call that? Reminds me of a Doobie Brothers vibe. Which I'm okay with the Doobie Brothers. There's a nice, The Howling has a nice sort of dramatic build-up opening that drops into a nice little disco vibe. Egg in a Hole is a nice, weird little prog number that accomplishes a lot in 3.5 minutes. Yeah, this is just, I think, the most fun. It's exhilarating. Like you can tell they're having fun. It sounds fun. The album just like one great song after another. Like you get some spoken word weirdness, not necessarily like narration, but them like not really rapping, but them kind of weird talking. Like, I don't know, man. it's just one of the most fun things I've heard Phish do. And for them to release this, like at this point in their career, like this is like what, 6 months old now, 7 months old now. It's just fun. It's exciting. It's full of really fresh energy. Like a must listen if you're a Phish fan and have not heard this. It's under the name Sci-Fi Soldier. Get More Down. A fantastic, fantastic studio album. I have not yet heard the Halloween version of this. I have not yet found. I know it's out there, but I haven't actually listened. I've heard a couple songs. They have videos of it on YouTube, but it's got to be. I'd like to hear what they do with this live, but what they do it in the studio is really, really, really fun. My number 5, Get More Down. My number 4 is their number 5th. Number 5 came out in 2004. Hoist. It's a really good album, man. Like no complaints about this. I think it's one of their most accessible albums, and I don't think that's a bad thing because there's also some really good music and some really good jams on here. I just think it's sequenced really well. I have one complaint actually there, but a lot of variety. They're doing a lot of different things, and they're also providing an epic, epic jam at the very end. Opens up with Julius, a nice good, starts off, a little just Trey on guitar type rocker, building the energy. Then we erupt into something big. We got a nice solo at the end. Good, typical Phish, like rockin' number. Down with Disease, great song. Took this personally when it came out. I think it's about 1,000 barefoot children dancing on the lawn. Felt he was talking about me back in the day, but some really good guitar energy in this one too. Nice funky bass work by Gordon. My one complaint is, if there's two kind of ballads on here, If I Could and Life Boy, and If I Could is third on the album, and you get this short little noise thing called Riker's Mailbox, this short little rocker, not really that short, but this like rockin' upbeat, aggressive number called Axilla, which is old music, and these are new lyrics to a song they have been playing live for a while. And then you get Life Boy, and If I Could and Life Boy to me kind of sound a lot alike and kind of fill the same role. And it's my only complaint with this album is that I think if Life Boy had been on side 2, it maybe would have, the album would have a better flow, or had been towards the end, it would have had a better flow. Sample in a Jar, really good upbeat pop number. When I was on Phish tour, when this song first came out, I had a sign that said, I quoted the song. There's a line, I am foggy, rather groggy, will you help me to my car? I had a sign that said, I'm foggy, rather groggy, will you help me in the show? I would just stand there and not say a word, not ever ask for tickets, but just hold that sign. And I got a lot of miracles for a lot of friends over the years. I was one of those people. I always had tickets myself, but back in the day, there were always people looking to give away tickets. And if I could help friends get them, I would. Because being on tour, you meet a lot of people who just follow the band and don't have tickets, So anyways, I guess that was a problem. So anyways, that's a confession of my sins. Wolfman's Brother, nice, really good, kind of funky number. Some good, just like presaging the cow funk that would come later on, a couple years. Scent of a Mule, I think one of Gordon's most successful silly songs. Yes, it's about the scent of a mule, about UFOs coming down and weirdness. Nice little like kind of hoedown energy. They would extend it out a little too much live and had this little thing they inserted in the middle, but a good song on the album. Dog Face Boy, a nice little acoustic ballad by Trey. And then Demand. They took a song, wrote a weird little kind of early Zappa, like 80s Zappa type Maggio envelopes type weird little do song, put some lyrics on it, and then at the end of the song you hear somebody getting into their car to like go on a trip, and they put in a cassette tape, and the cassette tape is playing the Split Open and Melt solo / jam from the 4/21/93 show. And so like the last 7 minutes of this song is that guitar solo. And then as the solo jam gets crazier and crazier, you can hear the car like turning corners and speeding, and finally the car crashes and the tape kind of ends. It's a really neat way to incorporate a live studio jam into an album. Completely effective. Great way to end the album. Think it works 100%. They pulled it off. A really good album. My number 4, Hoist. My number 3 is their second studio album, Lawn Boy. This came out in 90, or I guess on CD in 92, but they released it in 90 on cassette. Yeah, really good album. Like all great songs. Two really good studio jams that obviously will not match what they can bring live, but are, I think, pretty effective. Nonetheless, 9 songs. Squirming Coil opens, really good Trey song with some good piano energy. Kind of reminds you of a Genesis sort of proggy. Always kind of reminded me of Selling England by the Pound for some reason. Kind of the energy. Reba, one of their longer, funkier things with the weird prog section and a nice solo at the end. My Sweet One, a Fishman sort of country-ish, jammy type number. My Sweet One, they call you My Sweet One. Split Open and Melt, awesome pop song. Great funk vibe. Yeah, there's no epic jam on the end of this. They would throw that on Hoist, but the song is so good it doesn't matter. Okipa Ceremony, Bathtub Gin, another really funky song with lyrics I kind of like. Really good energy in this song. Run Like an Antelope, just this guitar solo vehicle that starts off on playful and then just goes into an epic, even on the studio version, a pretty epic guitar solo. Trey's playing and just his phrasing and the way he attacks things, so good. Lawn Boy, a silly little like Lawn Boy type number, lounge number, and then the closing bouncing around the room dun, 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 with some great vocals. Nice playful Mike Gordon number. Or Gordon, does Gordon sing it? No, I don't think Gordon sings it. Yeah, he sings part of it. They all sing it. But yeah, really good album. Like, not a bad song on it. Whole thing. The flow is great. Couple epic jams. Great little funk numbers. Great like little weird hoedown country type numbers. A really good, well-balanced album. No complaints. My number 3, Lawn Boy. My number 2 is their number 1. Their debut, Junta, came out in 89. Yeah, another one of those near perfect albums. I mean, it's kind of like Hoist and it's kind of like Lawn Boy. It's just a bunch of really great songs, couple epic jams, even though they're studio jams. Great flow to the album. Fee, great little storytelling opening. I wish the story wasn't as silly, but it's got some really good energy, some really good melodies. The awesome You Enjoy Myself, one of their like prog cobbled together numbers where you have all these really distinct different sections, including like a Zappa-esque opening and then nice little bunch of funk like energy in the middle. Usually a vocal jam live at the end where they all sing it, but all these disparate parts really work together. It's like, I think they're the perfect example of them having all these different ideas and making them work. Some nice heavy guitar energy in the middle. Really neat song. Esther, which reminds me of like a Trick of the Tail Genesis ballad. Kind of a circusy type energy, but some really neat parts to it. A really good, like slow burning vibe. Golgi Apparatus, kind of a cute little pop song with a neat little like Zappa-esque middle. All my friends love to hear this live. I kind of got annoyed with it, but there's a line, I saw you with the ticket stub in your hand, that everybody would go crazy for if they finally got into a show. They're like, yeah, I saw you with the ticket stub. I got the ticket stub. Yeah, low-hanging fruit right there. Foam, dinner and a movie, great little funky. Let's take one idea. Let's go out to dinner and a movie and see how many times we can play with that idea. Really fun 5 minutes, 4 minutes. And then the epicness of this album. The 2 songs, which I think on a great album tower above everything else still. The Divided Sky, just a great instrumental track with some great guitar melodies at the end. There's acoustic guitar on this, which is a nice difference from like a live version when he's just playing like a nice clean electric. Really nice, just a great song. Kind of an instrumental, but they do say, divided sky, the wind blows high. There was one little vocal break. And then David Bowie, another just epic, long instrumental beginning with all these convoluted parts, like Zappa-esque parts, and then just an epic guitar solo at the end. And they pull it off in the studio. Great songs live. Ends disc 1. This is a 2-disc album. End disc 1 on a really high note. Disc 2 has Fluffhead and Fluff's Travels. Nice good 15 minutes of like a story with some prog energy, a guitar solo payoff at the end. And then Mike Gordon's Contact. Nice little cheesy kind of Mike Gordon ballad type thing. They have different versions of Junta have been released. The original cassette, and I think the newest release, don't have the bonus tracks. But the CD I got back when they came out and whenever the CD first came out, had these bonus tracks. Union Federal, which is just like a 25-minute studio jam, but like a like a Siket Disc studio jam, you don't really get these really intense epic solos as much as you get a bunch of different flavors over the course of 25 minutes. I don't think it's a must hear, but I don't think it's a bad listen if you're in for like a really chill 25-minute journey. Then you get live versions of Sanity and Iculus that don't sound that great, but were fun back then. But there are better things out, better versions of these songs out there right now. But yeah, really solid album. Again, nothing wrong with it at all. Absolutely fantastic. And two absolutely must-hear Phish songs in Divided Sky and David Bowie. And maybe You Enjoy Myself even. That might even be a must-hear. Really good album. My number 2, Junta. And my number 1 favorite Phish album, the first album I ever got, but that's not why it's my favorite. It just happened to be my first. 1992's A Picture of Nectar. You saw his picture on the album cover. This is their third studio album. And again, I think there's only one song in here I kind of don't like, and that's the Mango song. I also don't like mangoes, so maybe it's a subconscious thing. It just kind of meanders a little too much for me and kind of too silly for a band that has a lot of silly songs. But really, they just deliver. I think the songs are good. I think anytime they have a chance to like solo or jam, they bring the goods. Llama, Trey's guitar playing in this is just fantastic. That solo is just kind of weird and aggressive. He pulls it off for a studio solo. The jam and Stash, again, nowhere near as epic as their live stuff, but it's a really good jam. The Tweezer jam is really good, has some good energy. The Landlady, they had a song that they play live called Punch You in the Eye, and there's like a middle jam in it that is like, it breaks down and goes into a whole different vibe than the rest of the song. The Landlady is that jam turned into its own song. That has some good energy in it. Chalk Dust Torture, maybe the only solo that's too short that could have even a little more studio time, but it's still pretty good. Tweezer Reprise has some really good piano energy. Songs like Gula Papyrus and Glide are just so incredibly well constructed and have so many neat sort of like intertwining guitar and piano and bass and drum, and like reminds me a lot of like Zappa's stuff from the 80s and just when he had Vi and Mars and Ed Mann, those kind of like lines. Just really good writing throughout the whole thing. And then there's the third song, Cavern, which closes with the line, "Whatever you do, take care of your shoes." One of the guys I used to do tour with back in like 94 and 95, and then I think we did 98 a little bit together, would always misplace his shoes. Always. We were always having to look for his shoes. I remember the Virginia show. I think it was 95, maybe Virginia. I ran into him as we were leaving the show, and I realized he had left his shoes inside. I noticed it. I was like, "Dude, your shoes, whatever you do." So he proceeded to like walk backwards as the crowd went out, hoping he could sneak past the security guards that way. He got pretty far, but then he got caught. They finally realized this dude's going the wrong way. He explained the situation. They let him go find his shoes. Anyways, they were really cool. But I think he forgot what he was doing and he came out without shoes later. I think he lost track for reasons I won't go into. But anyways, yeah, Cavern, another really good song. Just a fantastic album. It's like an hour long. I think the flow is perfect. I think the sound is perfect. I think the jams are perfect. Yeah, I think they just pull it off. Really good. Still my favorite after all these years. My number 1, A Picture of Nectar. And that's it, people. Those are my top 10 favorite and now completely all of my favorite Phish albums. Thank you for watching. Let me know what your favorites are. Let me know what I should reconsider, all that stuff. Leave whatever's on your mind. Just comment below. Subscribe, like, share. And more importantly, go listen to music. Go listen to Phish. Go listen to really good jam bands. I'm almost inspired to like maybe start a whole other series and start doing the Phish live reviews of their live releases. Just to go back down that rabbit hole, but I don't know when I'll do that. But I might at some point, because this has been neat, kind of revisiting some of these albums and reconnecting with a band that I don't listen to very much often anymore. But I'm surprised. I think the stuff holds up. It's pretty good. It's better than sometimes I give it credit for. So yeah, some really good stuff out there. So anyways, those are my thoughts on Phish. Thanks for watching. Peace. Take care, y'all.